Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Barcast TV and to another episode of Barcast Daily. It is August 19th, 2023, and we have a special guest on the channel. Welcome back, Requiem.
Hello there.
Hey, welcome back, and glad to have you. We're going to be casting Andy versus ZLO, the finals for the FarmMan leagues.
Yeah, there's been some really good 1v1s in this series of games in the league, so it'll be good to see how it ends with these two big names.
Yeah, the final conclusion, and I guess kind of news to me today, should be taking over that league, and at some point we'll be having season 2, but wanted to kind of wrap up the season here, give you guys an opportunity to see the two top players in Group A go at it and see who would be, I guess, the champion, rather.
So the first thing, interestingly enough, is they've actually both gone for a different start in terms of ZLO has gone for a double max solar and then walked to the third, whereas Randy didn't. He went for a double max into triple solar into the factory. So in some of the other games, I noticed that especially in those double max point position, that the commanders would build double mexes, the solar, and then place a laser tower behind it. Because those two double mexes are so far away from the factory, it's quite easy to get some early harass off. Literally as we see scouts coming out from ZLO here to get said early harass.
Right, and kind of a distinction, though, between the builds is we saw, hypothetically, ZLO had a faster land factory out, but despite that, with the travel time, Randy isn't going to be too punished. And he's getting some scouts out now, so we'll see how much damage ZLO can get done, but, you know, the travel time does make a big difference, and Andy's build was greedier, so should have an economic advantage at this point.
Yeah, and we also see Randy getting the first of the external mexes, whereas ZLO is still actually using his commander to pump out units instead.
Yeah, really atypical of ZLO's playstyle. He likes to stay in the main base with his commander, and this is something I see a lot of him. He'll open up 3 rovers into construction bot into like 6 more rovers, so that's what we've seen so far, and I'm not sure if Andy's going to be expecting another wave of these rovers to come across the map.
Well, also, he did manage to get the radar down, but he has just spotted the new wave with his scout in the middle.
It's going to let him get some units in position here. It shouldn't take too much damage. This is a pretty clean opening. He has like the one construction vehicle assisting the factory, and his commander is doing a decent job expanding.
Oh, he does get the free metal extractor though, for the cost of just a single scout.
Yeah, that's interesting. He didn't really dive in and trade out the units, so he's able to kind of get the free mechs, as you said, and pull back with the units. Didn't take any army damage at that point. He can keep those on the map, use them to scout around, keep track of what's going on.
To be fair though, losing a single metal extractor, I mean, it's only put him behind about, what, 7-8 seconds. The engineer was already there ready to rebuild it. So one thing that I am seeing Andy doing now, though, is if you see that engineer, he's actually queued up a wall of solars. This is not the first time I've seen them do that, and it just protects those metal extractors from run-by units, especially things like blitzes and stuff, which, you know, cannot shoot over. And also when solars get hit, they go into that defensive mode, so they take less damage. So ZLO's kind of got the same thing on his side, but it's probably more just to protect his factory.
Yeah, I heard an interesting term. It was like a DPS bank or something to that effect, as these units will target the economic structures over the LLT shooting at them even. So it's a good way to protect your units, like and make some kind of funnel or choke, or just even deflect a unit movement in and of itself, having a literal wall of solar collectors.
Well, that's the thing, right? You need power anyway, so you might as well use it for more than just power. Use it for defense as well, if you can.
Shaping the map. It's pretty cool to see. ZLO is still sitting in the main base with his commander.
He has just lost 2 metal extractors on the south side, though.
It's a nice little pickup. Didn't lose the construction vehicle. So I was going to try and rebuild those, reclaim that area. And I'm not too convinced on commander being in mid on this map, but we can see just how different their two play styles are. Andy's already moved towards the center with his commander. He's trying to split the map almost horizontally.
And with the commander changes, the commander is a powerful tool, and to only use it for build power seems like a bit of a waste.
Keep going back and forth. There's a lot to be said about, like, if using the commander's build power, because like he's like a military tool, I suppose, like degunning LLTs and whatnot, but it's like the whole time you're walking with the commander, you're not using that build power to assist the factory. So
but what we normally see on this map is where Andy's position is currently, the line normally gets drawn in the middle, and then you will see a secondary factory being built, whether that's bots or something else, and the commander generally sits there and assists that factory to push more and more forces out, like on the front line. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like ZLO's going to be able to do that.
No, definitely not. I doubt if he moves his commander out much. I mean, he's getting his first construction turret up now. He has to add on solar collectors with that. I'm going to take a look at Andy's main base and see. Just finished his first construction turret as well. Has a little bit more build power. Perhaps it's equal just with the commander. He's got 6 construction vehicles in his main base. Whereas ZLO just has the 1 commander and the 2. So that seems relatively even.
ZLO's just lost an expanding engineer on the south, though.
Yeah, that's a huge pickoff, honestly. He likes to play greedy. I'm surprised he's making LLTs at all, but we can see that he is completely surrounded by LLTs, it seems. Or his main base. So that was a nice catch with someone playing so slowly and methodically, trying to expand.
It's interestingly to see at the moment we have an energy excess of 4k for Andy and 2.7k for ZLO, and they have produced the exact same amount of metal and actually have lost at this point the same amount of units.
Pretty fantastic to see how even they're playing. ZLO's getting a little bit better of a trade. I see a couple of rovers running around, catching a couple of undefended mexes. Somehow he sneaks in and finds those undefended mexes. I don't know how this man does it.
Randy did do a nice attack on ZLO there and took out his forward position, an engineer, 2 metal extractors, and a laser tower in the middle.
Very nice.
All that remains there now is wreckage.
Really nice pick off there. You want to, like, the name of the game is controlling the center of the board. That's what I hear from a lot of these better players. So to see that go down, it really stifles your expansion into the mid.
What I did see that's interesting as well is that at basically exactly the 8-minute mark, both players have transitioned to stouts.
Interesting. I wonder what like mechs, what metal income value they were at. Looks like around 40, 35, 40, somewhere in that area.
ZLO's at 38 at the moment. Yeah, and Andy's at 39.
Very close game.
We're also seeing, interestingly here, that Andy's grouping his forces on the north, whereas ZLO is positioning them mostly at the south.
Perhaps to keep up pressure on this commander, and ZLO's doing a good job here, taking on a couple of these LLTs. I'd imagine he kind of pulls back away from this army that Randy moved up to deflect that with, so nice little pick off there. Couple of mexes, couple of LLTs.
If we actually look at ZLO's radar vision, though, he actually can't see much on that south side at all. And he's relying on that 1 scout at the south side to protect him from any run-bys.
Speaking of run-bys, there's one at the top side of the map. A couple of medium tanks are going to slip through this line, and they should get a lot of A lot of economic damage here. I mean, there's 3 medium tanks slipping through. You should get all those top left mexes. Both players continuing to produce medium tanks here. No kind of transition in sight. Neither player has a Janus queued up in the build queue. Seems interesting.
Been seeing that a lot recently as well. It seems a lot of players are moving away from Januses.
I'm still completely sold. The unit's insane. I mean, it has auto-tracking splash damage missiles that have decent range. So, if you kind of do this little circle movement, you know, sweep in, take your shot while you're moving, turn around, head the opposite direction, so you're kind of getting in and out of danger. Can really build up a lot of value over time with that unit. It just takes a decent amount of micro.
These stouts, though, are doing a lot of work. They've gotten a substantial amount of metal extractors for their run-bys.
Yeah, what was that, like 6? And
Yeah,
still another
amazing.
run by here on the south side. These blitzers are going to clean up another construction vehicle and more mexes, and this run by still can get more damage.
ZLO is trying to do some counter raiding himself, but it's nowhere near as effective as the hole that's been made in ZLO's base.
Yeah, we have more medium tanks showing up on this top side, so they should clear out all these LLTs and the 2 construction vehicles. So, what is that, like 5 or 6 construction vehicles that have gone down this game?
ZLO definitely on the back foot right now.
Yeah, if we zoom out, we can even kind of take a look at these positions. Our blue player has almost split the map in half. He's got a lot of LLTs kind of surrounding his commander. He's got a good position in the middle and has run-bys on his opponent's side of the map, so a really nice position for the blue player.
One advantage ZLO has at this point, though, is that the Reclaim is on his side of the map. If he can get control of that Reclaim, he can pump out a lot more units, because Randy is losing units.
Yeah, we can see all these little patches, 200-300 reclaim sprinkled all across these fields. Like you said, you just need to escort these construction vehicles out to those positions and try and recap these mexes. Too bad he doesn't have access to the res bot here. That could be a really effective way of quickly getting this reclaim back into your economy.
Another thing that's interesting is if ZLO just knew that Randy's commander was right down at the bottom here, surrounded by all these LLTs, he's probably got enough tanks to push through those LLTs and take out his commander.
You think so? Wow. I always try and avoid these kinds of trades because I feel like I'm just going to make a huge donation. So even though that's his win condition, right? I mean, he could straight up win the game if he kind of plowed through.
And stouts are pretty tanky. They can, like, 3 of them can take out an LLT pretty quickly. And he had about 8 to 10 stouts there.
Right.
You push through those LLTs very quickly, and then you're on his commander.
Yeah, maybe get lucky, catch your opponent in a power stall. But it seems like he's kind of splitting his army up in 2. There's one moving towards the mid, pressuring, and then another group responding to this run-by. Just another run-by on the south side here. The left side coming up.
We're actually seeing ZLO preparing for a bombing run now. He's got an air factory up producing bombers. He's trying to hurt Randy's economy.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. He's got 5 bombers out already. He just finished his air scout, so he should be sending these across the map. We're going to look at Andy's perspective here. See how quickly he can get up some AA once he hears that notification. It's like he just now is going to add his own air lab in response to this, so really interesting to see. Not even making any anti-air around his main base, so ZLO's going to get 1 bombing run off. Couple of lashers coming out to deal with these air units. We'll see how quickly they're actually able to deal with these bombers. Got another couple of bombing runs off to finish taking out the air power, build power there. So 6 construction turrets going down. That was a nice little pickup. I'm not sure how effective the trade was. He still has 5 bombers in the air.
And he's already queuing up replacement construction turrets as well, but I will set him behind a little bit at least.
Yeah, he's got a full mass bar, so 2,500 mass in the bank right now. It's going to give his opponent a chance to come back in the game, but we still see him making another run-by attempt on the bottom left side of the map. Got 11 medium tanks heading towards ZLO's main base. And these Whistler missile trucks are spreading out across the map, doing a decent job cleaning up the rest of these bombers here.
Be interesting to see if ZLO plans on just reclaiming the aircraft factory or not. You do often see these used in like a one-run situation.
Right.
Unless you're Cortex, then obviously shurikens are very powerful throughout the game.
I do like to make the air transport at this stage in the game too. You can, that's like a get out of jail free card for your commander, or you can obviously like fly him out to any of these big reclaim fields that are forming and quickly, you know, have a chance to put up a couple OTs and secure a reclaim field.
I don't know, I still feel, even with that bombing run, I feel it's going to be hard for ZLO to pull this back. He's lost basically majority of his expansion mexes, and he doesn't really have the units to contest Andy right now.
No, and frankly, he doesn't have enough energy as well. So I mean, ideally, with access to this much reclaim, you'd want to put down a bot lab and get some res bots out. He doesn't quite have the. It's hard on Comet Catcher to get the amount of E required to have a really effective res bot army, especially with an aircraft factory producing units. Takes a lot of energy to run those.
If you look at the statistics now, we'll see there's a substantial metal difference between Andy and ZLO right now.
Yeah, what is that?
But,
7k, 6k?
Yeah, but Andy has accessed 1.5k metal.
to the
a lot of metal
to the
waste.
One of his opponent. So he's done a good job rebuilding these construction turrets. So he's got his build power back online. I don't see him really suffering for metal too much. He still is trying to spend the bank he did have. So we see that's starting to go down.
ZLO is doing a good job at like pushing out new engineers though to those expansion spots, but yeah, just trying to find it difficult to hold it, unfortunately.
Yeah, our blue player has done a really good job of raiding here on the top and bottom side. He's been keeping his opponent busy the whole game. And as we can see, I mean, that's allowed him to expand across the entire map, so he's pretty much split the map in half. See all these mexes capped, a bunch of LLTs spread out everywhere, a bunch of anti-air turrets.
For the first time though, we do see ZLO with the unit advantage.
Yeah, it's tough to know where to attack in this position as well, so you can't see what we see here and all these, like what would be the weakest position to attack. I think he's content to just kind of hold this line of tanks here, prevent his opponent from doing any kind of run-bys.
Do you see Andy here preparing his own bombing run?
That's right, so he has about 5 of these Stormbringers already built, these T1 bombers. And he should be looking to hit the build power. It's hard to know where these or how many solar collectors, how many bombing runs it takes to take out one solar collector. I'm not sure, but I do know those construction turrets are very weak. Sees low. Yeah.
I was gonna say even the fighter numbers though is significantly in Andy's favor here. It's not looking good for that protection level from the fighters. Won't be able to take the bombers out that quickly with only that many.
Yeah, that was really interesting response. He just immediately made an aircraft plant to start producing these fighters. So just kind of committing to that theater of units for the rest of the game. not really relying on just anti-air turrets and missile trucks to deal with these air units. Pretty interesting to see that kind of commitment to the to air units.
That looks like a nice flank going on there between the blue army is stuck in the middle.
Right. Pulling back here. Doesn't want to get surrounded or take that extra flanking damage. That could be one way ZLO gets back in this game. Takes a really effective trade, and this bombing run is about to get off. He did a really nice job stacking those bombs together, but doesn't really get much damage done there. So, see another pass is going to be made. 2 more bombs going off. And not enough DPS to take out those construction turrets.
Starting to get to the critical mass point though, where ZLO's unit numbers are substantially lower than Andy's.
Yeah, we can see that now. Looks like our blue player is winning on both fronts. These 2 tank armies could end up moving together here. And putting the nail in the coffin on this game, just attacking the main base directly. ZLO's desperately trying to take some effective trades. He's trying to win these flanks on the left and right side, but I don't think Andy's going to give him the opportunity. He can just retreat back to his LLTs.
We are seeing reclaiming of the bot air lab though for some res bots for ZLO.
Yeah, finally getting those out into the middle. There's 2 a 3.3k reclaim field, a 2k reclaim field just below that, so plenty of reclaim. And Andy's actually gone ahead and got his own res bots out, so doing what they can get these tanks back into the battlefield. He's got his 10 res bots of his own. Like you said, that second factory came up in the middle. His commander's diligently assisting those res bots.
And that's the thing, he has less distance to travel with those res bots to get to the reclaim itself, whereas ZLO's has to run a long way before they can actually make any use of their abilities.
That's right. And yeah, that's going to be the game. So ZLO taps out, game 1 goes to Andy, and we're going to be going into game number 2 of this best of 5 series. Yeah, here we are. ZLO's calling out asymmetrical maps. I'm wondering if is he referring to this Paradise Lost? I would think this is kind of seems rotationally symmetrical, perhaps. Maybe
yeah,
you could argue.
Mirrored diagonally.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no. Yeah, no, technically he's right. It's not mirrored exactly. The start positions are mirrored diagonally,
Right.
but the little islands and such are different in the water.
Seems relatively balanced. Perhaps maybe it'd be worth a deep dive to see which side really has an advantage. I will say I think ZLO got the better end of it. This bottom left quadrant has these 4 mexes tucked together quite closely together. So that lets you get a better start. I suppose Andy's chosen to go in this bottom right and has got 3 mexes available to him before his shipyard. So a little bit of a difference.
But the difference is his shipyard is a lot more defendable. He's got the 1 choke point to defend in front of his naval factory, and as long as he can defend that, he has no worries, whereas ZLO can be attacked from quite a wide angle.
So can subs traverse through this little bit of terrain here? I'm actually not...
I believe they can.
Interesting. I know the subs can't get into the middle bay here, which I didn't learn until recently.
That doesn't stop dolphins though.
No, so like any kind of surface ship can get in through. So this is actually a really fun map. I played this in my my Spring TV series. I had a good amount of time, a good amount of fun. Sorry, practicing for that or just trying to figure out what to play, what to build.
Interestingly enough, both players have again gone Armada.
Yeah, so from what I understand, the consensus is that Core has a better T1 Navy. So that's interesting to see both players choosing to go armed. They do have the Dolphin, which is like a sea blitz. I'm not sure what better way to describe it. We'll see here in a second. Perhaps these two ships interacting with each other as they draw closer and closer. Yeah,
in terms of like Tech 1 Navy, the Dolphin is definitely by far better than the Cortex variant.
Yeah, the supporter Supporters do have a bigger line of sight and faster movement speed, though. So on these larger maps, you could make a case that harassing or trying to find these early construction ships, you have a bit of an advantage with the supporter. But these dolphins have a lot of firepower, so if they can get on top of stuff, they can do a lot of damage very quickly.
I was also surprised how far Andy's dolphin actually got.
Yeah, completely on the other side of the map, and you really don't want to be losing those to straight up Navy units. You want to be finding these construction ships, finding these radar installations. You really don't want to be trading army out at this stage in the game. You want to be, because it's so large and open, you want to be pulling your opponent back to his side of the map or just outright harassing him to give you a chance to kind of expand freely. You see ZLO is returning the favor, donating a Corvette of his own to Andy there, and might end up finding this construction ship. That was really close. I don't think he's quite aware. It looks like he's turning around looking for this one construction ship, so it's going to give Andy the chance to move some units into position and protect that.
We are seeing a difference in building methodology here, though. Andy has decided to go mostly with tidal generators, generating 15 power a second, whereas ZLO is the opposite and has decided to build mostly wind generators on the little patch of land right next to him. Currently giving us 18 power. It's pretty good.
And those wind turbines are a lot metal cheaper than their tidal generator counterparts, so not the biggest difference, but I mean, we can see on the mini-maps, ZLO has a lot more Corvettes out at this moment. I mean, what is this? 10 Dolphins to his opponent's, was that 3 or 4 I see?
Well, for cost differences, you can get 3 wind turbines for the price of a single tidal. And with our current tidal power and wind power, that's 3 times the amount of power for a single tidal.
The 3x return, yeah, exactly. So definitely I'd give the advantage to our red player here for now. He's got a nice little concentration, stacked up group of these Dolphins, and he's going to be hunting for those construction ships.
We are seeing ZLO just staying in his base, though. Again, not expanding to the additional metal points that are very close to him. And just choosing to send that single engineer out to only get the water mexes.
Yeah, and he's done a good job of expanding quickly, though, so he's totally foregoing those torpedo launchers. You can take a look at how many of these C-mexes he has compared to our blue player, and it's about twice as many, so despite having fewer construction ships, he's expanded more quickly. It's pretty interesting.
However, the Navy cannot hit the land mexes of Andy, so he's not going to be able to damage any of Andy's economy.
You could say, though, these Dolphins can't shoot these underwater mexes as well, so for now, both are equally protected. Of course, Andy could move into the subs, which would do a very good job of harassing these underwater mexes. Which, for those of you who don't know, the ARM sub is cheaper metal cost than its core counterpart, and I believe they're a little quicker, have like a higher turn rate, but less DPS. Nice job of Skater catching 2 of those radars. He's gonna get a 3rd one. Barely goes down in time. That would have been really frustrating to target 3 of those.
The main issue with Navy, though, is that he's also, if he loses all of his ships, he is donating a vast amount of metal to his opponent. So no one really wants to go all in and lose their entire Navy.
Yeah, that's a good point. You see a lot of posturing in these Navy games. Even more kind of kiting is perhaps a little more effective. So you'll just see a lot of these back and forth feigning attempts at gaining a position, and really I think the map will see come down to controlling these 2 channels, of course.
I have noticed you don't tend to see much use of the middle segment of the map.
I think this is critical, absolutely critical to controlling. Really, there's a lot of mexes here. I mean, what is that, like 9 mexes we're looking at? Subs can't get into this area, so it's I think a really strong rallying point to launch attacks. Like if your opponent has either their armies kind of committing to an attack in either one of these channels, you can quickly launch an attack onto your opponent's, a counterattack onto your opponent's side, and vice versa, of course. So I think controlling this part is pretty much critical.
The main issue is that you generally want to control the quickest route to the enemy base, which in most instances is across the top or bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And because those mexes in the middle are so easy to kill, although there is more in there, you don't tend to see them often get taken because they're so easy to kill.
Right.
And if you can control the middle point in the map, like ZLO currently is, then you would normally be winning the game.
Yeah,
and at this point, ZLO is actually got a vast unit advantage here, but he's not really capitalizing on it too much.
Now he's fallen behind in E a little bit. Looks like he's finally adding on some tidal generators, but yeah, I'd have to agree his map position is really strong right now. He's camping this reclaim field. I'd like to see him bring this construction bot up and just try and get that. Something that's 1.5k reclaim.
But another thing to note is he's actually got almost half a metal bar full of metal right now. So he's not able to spend his metal as efficiently as Andy is right now.
Yeah, he's trying to remedy that by building a couple of construction turbs, but he's stalling on energy really hard right now. So it looks like the wind turbine strategy is coming to bite him back in the butt really when he needs it most. I'm sure he'd love to take advantage of this great position he's in by just further reinforcing with units, but
it doesn't help that he just got a resurrection sub up as well at the same time.
Yeah, he's taking a lot of energy. Looks like he's reclaiming for now, so really good job. These Reaper subs are really interesting. Unlike the res bots that are very vulnerable in these fights, they can kind of sit here underneath the water and reclaim these units while the units on the top fight each other. And he's stepping forward. He's getting a decent trade. He's moved behind the army, so he's getting that flanking damage and takes out all these units. So it's like the kind of flipping the script here.
And that is a lot of boats to lose as well.
Yeah, 2k reclaim. Looks like ZLO still has his resurrection sub, so even though he lost all those units, he still has a chance to get this reclaim. Finally, it's going to go down to a torpedo launcher. Gonna zoom
Wouldn't surprise me if we start seeing a transition to different boats, which we are actually starting to see. We see some eels queued up from ZLO, as well as some Elisaurs, the assault frigates.
Yeah. It's hard to remember all these names, so I just try and remember the ship type, right? Corvettes and frigates and cruisers, destroyers.
Yeah, it's interesting they've both chose now to transition to the assault frigates from the corvettes.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Both players privy to what units to start producing at what certain metal incomes. We saw the exact same thing happen on the last map, so you can see how intuitive these players are at spending their economies. I have to say, I like ZLO's position. He's got these channels for now. Perhaps I'll eat my words here. Looks like Andy's going to make an attempt to kind of move out of this position, but these dolphins all are pretty heavily damaged.
We are seeing also a bit of a radar short spot in the middle. He's only got radars on the north and south. He doesn't actually have a radar that's effectively covering the middle.
Yeah, I like to put one like right here. This is a great spot for a radar. You can get control of the you can see the center while having it kind of protected by the land, so ships have a more difficult time hitting that. You could even point it right here, a little bit behind that mountain range. And I hear some destroyers taking some pot shots, so Andy using that superior range.
submarines are starting to cause some damage on the south side as Andy's eels have started showing up. Ah, we also see destroyers, yeah, from Andy deal with those subs. Surprised we haven't seen any destroyers out from ZLO yet.
Could be plotting
Doesn't even
some
have them queued.
kind of transition. Yeah, I noticed that on Andy's build queue. He has got one of those Corsairs on repeat, one of those destroyers. But it looks like ZLO is choosing to make res subs and these like skaters, sonar, anti-air bots on repeat. So going for a little bit of a more mobile utility army than just the sheer firepower range that Andy's chosen to go for, mixing in these destroyers.
Thing is, he doesn't have anything to deal with the submarines. And Andy's getting a large amount of submarines stacking up.
Yeah, with the conjunction of those destroyers, because destroyers have the depth charges, so they can handle themselves fairly well against enemy subs. So it's going to give him a big advantage in the sub-surface theater of Navy games. It can be really interesting trying to balance those above sea, on sea, and below sea kind of theaters.
It wouldn't be surprising if we're going to see a secondary air factory coming up at some point soon.
Yeah, we see Andy's already had and made his own air factory. He's going to be getting some fighters out to kind of protect himself and his economy. And this is about when I like to transition to seaplanes, rather. So those torpedo gunships are super effective against T1 navies. Just it's kind of insane.
They are a lot more expensive though.
Yeah, they're so expensive. So if you can split map on Paradise Lost, you should be able to afford both production just with a couple of energy converters and a decent wind economy. Looks like Andy's finally securing these Bay mexes that ZLO took so long ago.
The few subs that ZLO does have out though is doing a good job at harassing Andy.
Yeah, we can see they're kind of made their way into his side of the water here, clearing out a couple of mexes, like you said. He's going to get one of these construction ships for his trouble. It's going to end up going down, so nice little pick off there. It's like one destroyer is going to be making its way to clean up one of these. See, destroyers are decently effective against those subs.
Does seem I've also ate my words about middle being contested or not.
Right, both players have two decent-sized navies sitting here in the mid, really denying the other from adding on more torpedo launchers. If one of them got a construction ship in this area and could really secure it, lock it down with some extra radar and torpedo launchers, it's hard to push static defense in navies. You really have to commit to an attack, and like you said, if you take a bad trade, you're just donating so much metal in such a concentrated area.
I think that big group of metal from wiping the Dolphins is really what given Andy the ability to come back.
Absolutely. You can see just like how many more destroyers and frigates he has compared to his opponent, and that's going to force ZLO back. I mean, he's turning around to posture. He wants to take a trade here perhaps, but I mean, Andy's got 4 destroyers right here.
Interestingly enough, when we do look at the statistics, Andy has actually lost more units than ZLO by about 8 difference, and metal produced is very much the same, with ZLO actually about a 1k ahead in metal. Doesn't mean so much when it's boats, but still matters in the long run.
Absolutely, and there's a huge reclaim field here in the south side, so 4K mass sitting right here in front of these two navies. And whoever gets control of that reclaim field is going to have a lot of mass to spend.
ZLO does already have one of those resurrection subs there, ready.
See, ZLO's targeting those 2 construction ships from Andy as well that were gathering that reclaim, so I mean, this is a really long, protracted battle. I'm not sure who's going to have the better of it here. We have a couple more reinforcing destroyers making their way, and I think Andy's turning the tide in his favor.
Well, the Grim Reaper sub can't get close enough to much of that reclaim while the destroyers are still alive.
see one submarine is out, and that's interesting to see. The subs have a better range from the destroyers, and these frigates are preventing them from kind of aggroing forward to deal with this one submarine that's still getting some shots off. $7K mass sitting right here in the center, so just so critical to camp this and prevent your opponent from getting that mass.
Interestingly enough, we see Andy going for gunships from his air factory rather than bombers.
Perhaps that's maybe one of his motivations for picking arm in this scenario. Those gunships are really effective against clearing out anything on the land, like of these spread out mexes and wind turbines. And it takes a lot of APM and metal to put up anti-air everywhere to cover yourself from gunship harassment. So
ZLO does already have quite a substantial amount of anti-air up on the water already, though.
Yeah, kind of having the foresight. I mean, we're 18 minutes into the game. You have to expect an air transition, and I'm sure he got the notification about these this fighter screen Andy's been building up. So it's cool to see he's got two little patrol groups protecting both the North and South Island.
I'm somewhat surprised we haven't actually seen any hovers played, because this would be quite useful for harassing all of the land economy of both players.
Yeah, absolutely. At this stage in the game, I mean, they're so mobile. They're so good at moving over these small island ships. Kind of have to rotate around. And unfortunately for Andy, he walked into the one place where ZLO had anti-air on this North Island. So he's going to lose a lot of gunships before doing any damage. And ZLO had already moved into seaplanes, so he made a couple of fighters, and those gunships got no damage.
Torpedo gunships are out and about as well.
Doing what they can to harass this economy. I would have liked to have seen ZLO kind of build those up a little more and contest this navy. If he could win a decent trade here on the South Channel, he could have took this reclaim field, but finally we see Andy moving some of those res subs, and for now they're repairing this forward destroyer, but I mean, he just has to flip the switch and start reclaiming or resing all these units.
Really surprised how tanky those gunships are, though.
Oh, the torpedo gunships?
Yeah, he's had two fighters harassing a single gunship for ages, and he still managed to take out an advanced metal, or a metal extractor, two metal extractors, and an energy converter before getting killed.
Yeah. Well, they are about triple the metal price. We see those T1 fighters out of the land air factory is 73 mass, whereas the torpedo gunship is 290. So 4x the mass cost almost. For people, I didn't quite realize, like, it's like T1.5, these seaplane factories. The units are very expensive. Not quite T2 though, so you don't have access to those like advanced metal extractors. Can get a construction seaplane out, which I'm actually not sure if that can make those. Looks like ZLO finally made one. I can look at this card here.
Only Tech 1, I believe.
Yeah, just Tech 1, so.
But unfortunately, with ZLO losing that main reclaim field on the south side, it's going to be difficult for him to bring this back, I think. Yeah,
a little bit of a slow burn here. We see Andy is resing all these units in the middle, so not even trying to get that reclaim for himself and put it. I think for now, I mean, he doesn't have this like critical mass of res subs, so I think he'd be better off just reclaiming all this mass for himself than trying to res the units. But he's definitely better than I am. So
interesting as well. We're not seeing him mass the gunships to fight the navy, considering he's got a lot of these gunships not doing anything.
Yeah, what are these? I think he's hiding them in the top left corner, so just building up some more of these torpedo gunships. Gonna try and swing a battle in his favor. He's setting up a surround as well. So, but I mean, Andy doesn't have to give it to him because he's perfectly content just sitting on top of this reclaim field for now. Doesn't have to move out of this channel. And as soon as I say that, he moves his entire navy out of the channel.
ZLO was actually microing a gunship a minute ago to take out as many of the resurrection subs as he could. Try and slow the fight for that reclaim field. So this might be why now he's deciding to go in on this force and get a very good surround with the Dolphins.
Yeah, so far, I mean, he's got a huge flanking damage. All these destroyers are threatened for now. His army is thinning out a little bit, and you have a lot of heavily damaged destroyers surviving that huge attack there. So
the gunships are there as well, doing their thing.
Yeah, looks like those couple of torpedo gunships kind of got cleaned up for now. I don't see any of them targeting this huge group of naval units in this south channel, and even more wrecks here. How much mass is this? What is that, like 10k mass? 13k mass in that south channel. Absolutely insane, the carnage. And that must have been the last hurrah for ZLO. I mean, he really needed to take that fight and get control of that reclaim field, so...
Unfortunately, with the amount of skaters that Andy pumped out to respond to the gunships, there's not much left he can do, really.
He's got half of his map secured, but, I mean, the real issue here is Andy can just sit on top of this reclaim field and continue rezzing these units, so you have to find a way to pressure that. He can't move in his own subs past past the destroyers of Andy, so he's in a really tough position right now.
Did manage to get a single seaplane bomber through, though, that is harassing the eco on the south side of Andy's island.
Yeah, all those mexes got cleared up. I didn't notice that. Where are these players at? ZLO has an energy advantage right now. We'll go back in the statistics tab. Looks like he's even sitting up in metal produced right now, but he's at such a huge deficit in Navy. Army standing. I'm not sure how he's going to get back in. He has to take a super effective trade right now. Looks like ZLO moved back into 2-factory production, continuing to mass these Dolphins, so... Andy doesn't have to get him a trade though. He can just sit on. He can just camp this reclaim field. Hopefully, he learned his lesson and doesn't try stepping forward. That gave ZLO like the one opportunity he needed to potentially get back in the game.
ZLO is slowly creeping into the economy of Andy in the sea on the north side as well, with 2 subs.
Yeah, he's been doing a good job, even breaking through with a sub here, kind of in the mid towards a production. But one destroyer is going to clean that up. Looks like these subs can actually outrange the torpedo launchers. What is that? 500 range for the sub compared to the 500, but we can see ZLO somehow is targeting the extreme edge of that radius. And is that getting damage done? I can't tell.
I think it's mainly due to the vision. It seems that ZLO is manually firing at the torpedo defense, but the torpedo defense itself doesn't actually have vision of the submarine.
Finally, that was a cute little microchip there. ZLO has so many of these microchips. I don't know how he knows them all. Like, coming from FAF, I guess he just has some kind of sense about it. But looks like we have this huge Dolphin army preparing for a surround. 45 Dolphins against the 13 Eels, 6 destroyers. This is a huge T1 Navy.
The thing is, though, a lot of Andy's army is just skaters as well.
Can really protect him against these torpedo gunships, which are super effective against these destroyers and frigates. They have a lot of DPS, and Andy's winning on both fronts now. So he's pushing in the south channel, he's pushing in mid. Finally clearing ZLO out of that position, and really just needs to protect himself on this top side. And here we go. Here's the naval engagement. ZLO stepping forward. He's sending forward these torpedo gunships. We have to keep track who's actually winning this battle. So much
relying
firepower.
Purely on the surrounding damage, the flanking damage here to try and turn that tide.
I mean,
does look like it is going in his favor, though.
Yeah, absolutely. He took a really sharp trade right there. Took out the entire navy of Andy, but doesn't have the subs in place to deal with these resurrection subs of our blue players. So he can't quite seem to burst down through that like that resing that's been done. So. And with these reinforcements, destroyers, I think that's gonna give Andy the chance to push ZLO off of this reclaim field. Just doesn't have enough dolphins to take a second fight.
Question is, has he got anything to deal with the gunships that are going to be coming out from ZLO? Because Andy did lose a lot of his fighters in that previous engagement.
Yeah, are these yeah, so they can target those res subs, so it looks like they can two-shot the res subs. It's really strong. You want to prevent Andy from getting even more reclaim. ZLO's trying to get some subs out for now. He's got one construction ship right next to this 8K reclaim field, but can he chew through this army again? He's gonna go for an engagement here. I think there's too many destroyers this time. Yeah, these
also, Andy's done a very good job at keeping a separate navy further back to cause flanking damage to the units trying to flank him.
Yeah, that's really good position. I didn't quite notice that. And these skaters in the back are getting enough in numbers to really deal with these torpedo gunships for now. It's a nice job balancing his army composition here. Really patiently getting all this reclaim. Not forcing an engagement, and I think this is getting close to the end. ZLO is out of navy. Andy's getting so close to his production.
I don't see ZLO coming back from this at all. He's played all the cards he can play. He did a great job at harassing Andy, but unfortunately just losing all those reclaim fields each time, just there's no way to come back from it.
No, that was such a valiant effort too, like really being down kind of tech-wise, firepower-wise with the destroyer count, but you're really utilizing those torpedo gunships to equalize the game. Finally, one desperate attack is going to get cleaned up and calls GG. Welcome back to Game 3 in this best-of-5 series between Andy and ZLO. Would you like to introduce our players and their spawning positions, Requiem?
Sure. We've got ZLO again on the south side. Currently, he is 2-0 down, so he needs to win this game in order to pull it back. And on the north side, we have Andy, who is going for a wind start, which is not a bad shout on this map. The map has got a lot of energy crystals, though, so making sure you get resbots to get those reclaim fields is very good. We do see ZLO on the south side, though, who has chosen to go Cortex this round.
Yeah, so classic core versus arm. ZLO with a little bit of a greedier start here, capping these 3 mexes before getting into any kind of lab here. You see Andy's already has his lab about 50% done. ZLO hasn't even started his yet. Wind dropping down heavily here at the start, so it forced him to make a couple extra wind turbines at the start.
Yeah, with bots, you don't necessarily need to go for 3 metal extractors. You can quite easily get away with it with 2. But another thing is the Cortex will not have any sort of early harass. We have ticks coming out from Andy for that early level of harass, but with ZLO generally staying in base, I don't see it being too big of a deal for him.
Playing super greedy, though. I mean, he went construction bot first after a 3-mex open here, so he has to know he could be vulnerable. He has 1 grave robber, so just the absolute greediest build he could possibly go for. See how much damage Andy can get with these early ticks. The His first grunt is almost done. Looks like he ended up getting 2 mexes for his trouble, but with an early res bot out, ZLO can, really quickly kind of get this income back into his coffers, so to speak. And it still has about 600 mass in the bank, so not the end of the world losing some early mexes after such a greedy open.
Yeah, I was just about to say, with him having that much metal stored up, it's not really going to be much of an issue for him.
And it seems like power is the issue at hand.
Yeah, this map is an interesting map. I'm a big fan of this map, but a lot of people don't like it. But there is a vast amount of energy in those energy crystals that you just have to be willing to get out and go. So you don't necessarily need to build as much economy for energy, at least early on, and you can push more into other things.
Like 4 construction bots that Andy has made so far, so playing super greedy.
Well, the tick harass again, though, in ZLO's base. He's going to get another 2 metal extractors.
I didn't quite catch that, yeah. So, but, with the 2 res bots out, so he's just going to immediately resurrect these and continue assisting the factory with his commander. So, pretty cool little start here. This is like super efficient. I mean, he has the 2 construction bots moving on the left and right side, capping those available mexes, and ZLO doing a good job harassing. Takes out 1 construction bot with just a single grunt and 2 radars.
There was actually an awesome bit of microing from ZLO as well, where he managed to keep 1 grunt out of the range of 3 pawns, managing to kill 1 of them and escape with the command closing on him at the same time. It's a great bit of micro there from the early game from ZLO.
Yeah, it can be so frustrating against these higher level players who are so strong at microing grunts. If you find yourself in this matchup.
Grunts are definitely the better choice of units for this early game, but we do often see this map turn into more of a vehicle standoff map pretty soon into the game, so it'll be interesting to see who will transition to vehicles first. And it is generally recognized that ARM has the better tier 1 vehicles, so I'm sure ZLO will want to drag out the bot phase for as long as possible.
That's interesting you say that, yeah, because if we start seeing these vehicle transitions come into place, Andy has access to the Janus, which over a long enough of a game, he should find more value than the Cortex counterpart. So, yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on, see like who gets the better trades over a longer period of time. That will tell us who has an advantage in the game, who's in a winning position.
It is also interesting that we see so many vehicles played on this map, considering the hills on either side play such a big part and open so many avenues of attack, and yet, again, we see vehicles played the majority of the time.
Yeah, I still think the map has yet to be figured out because, I mean, you could launch huge attacks from the mid, like right to your opponent's main base. So if you can get control of these little valleys here and catch your opponent off guard with some sharp unit movements, you could really use the speed and mobility of bots to cripple your opponent's production or energy.
Now there's also geothermal positions in both corners, the top right and bottom left corner of the map. It'll be interesting to see if, with the vast amount of energy crystals on the map, whether these geos will ever get built.
I think of geos as just extra metal in a sense, because what is it, 300 or 400 metal they give you, and typically if I end up making geos, I'll just go straight into 4 energy converters and think of that as just a couple extra mexes that you have to take a few extra steps to get to. But on these kind of maps where you've gone split map and it's gotten stalematey, can definitely give you an economic advantage.
ZLO has also started that transition we spoke of to vehicles, and Andy has as well, but Andy's is positioned in the center of the map. And the first thing he is building is Janus's.
Janus, right. I'd have to say I like ZLO's position here a little better. He's got his land factory right next to his 3 construction turrets and his commander, so he's going to be producing a lot of units very quickly.
We'll just have to see how the brutes play off against the Janices.
This is a really interesting build comp. 1 medium tank, 1 Janus, 1 shell shocker on repeat coming out of this factory. Hear a lot of complaints about just the artillery meta and team games mostly. Don't really.
Yeah, if you get the critical mass of artillery first, you can just force your opponent to either go all in or just to keep backing off. And unfortunately, in this situation, with the build order that Andy has, I don't see him being able to survive an all-in attack.
He's got a couple of Janus out. He's got a big pack of ticks that he has left over from the early game. He's looking for some value for. I think he's going to end up trading into a wall of grunts here. That would have been absolute massacre there. Andy's too smart for that. Too good. Retreats his tricks. He's going to try and find another avenue of attack. So here's a hot little tip. If you are using the artillery, it's smart to make one of these missile trucks. They have their extra line of sight that give you vision for your artillery. So just make one of those missile trucks.
He also has the scouts as well, being the Cortex vehicle scouts, which we do see a couple of those in his queue as well.
I wonder what is the range on the scouts. Actually, I didn't quite know those were useful enough to.
180 vision range.
So both players stalling on E at the moment. Looks like wind is dropping down really low, so these LLTs are not going to be powered for the moment. That one missile truck's going to go down to the medium tank shots. And these artillery are about in even numbers. You just have 2 to 1 at the moment. Andy going up to 3rd artillery. And somehow managed to get 2 construction turrets up in the middle of the map here. So has plenty of build power for his vehicle plant.
One scout from ZLO, though, did manage to almost kill a Janus from the friendly fire damage from the Januses.
It's a huge deal. And there's a big trade here on the top side of the map. So all these early game grunts are going to be getting used up, trading out with the static defense and leaving a huge reclaim field. Almost 1,000 mass sitting right there. ZLO being on the spot with it, moving these res bots in position. Hopefully he doesn't get caught out by this one pawn that could massacre these three res bots.
Another thing is Andy has no vehicle production in his base now. His units are only going to have to come from the middle, so he has nothing really to defend his whole entire energy production.
Right, and he's moving his commander up in response against this, so kind of sensing the damage he is in, adding on a huge wind farm, so really trying to take the game as late as he wants it. Perfectly content to camp in the middle, adding on artillery and Janus. Looks like ZLO is deliberately running in those scouts to try and get some friendly fire shots off. That's really, really cool play.
It's a very good way of baiting the Janus shots as well.
I see a lot of people kind of complaining about that unit, but there is a lot of micro tricks you can use to mitigate the splash damage, to use it against itself. I have to say I've lost my own 1v1 taking a couple of Janus shots to the back of my commander. It's a good way to take 70% damage on your commander. Just eat a flanking damage shot.
I can't remember which video I did it in, but there was some, I think it was a Taku game, where he did some great baiting of Janus shots to basically make his opponent have no damage. Just bait the Janus shots out a couple of seconds before you go in, and half your enemy's army has no damage left.
Right, that's huge move, very sharp. Really a testament to these higher level players understanding like where they can get value, where they can eliminate value. And kind of taking a step back, looking at this big picture, I mean, we can clearly see ZLO's got a bigger vehicle army. He's feeling confident enough to step forward. Not enough meat in front of these long-range siege units, and he's going to get behind these artillery.
Slow also has 15 energy converters at this point in the game, whereas Andy does not have any.
Yeah, he got up that aforementioned Geo up. He's going to be producing a lot of metal here. He's got 4K metal advantage, and that directly translates into all these extra medium tanks. Yeah, so ZLO taking game 3. Andy calling GG. And we should be moving into game 4, this best of 5. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to game 4 of this best of 5 series between Andy and ZLO. We're going to be playing this on Zelnaga Caverns as I know it, but it's Ravaged Remake and Bar, so pretty cool map. A great 1v1 map for that, and should have another decent game.
Some lovely tidal building there from Slow, giving 21 power in a very uncontested location.
I think they nerfed the title on this map actually, because I want to say it used to be like 30 or 40. It looks like they dropped it down to 21.
Yeah, instantly Slow ahead on energy produced by at least 12 energy, which is the equivalent of, you know, a whole windmill.
Not. That's gonna let him get up a faster factory, perhaps. Looks like Andy's gone for this 3-mech start, 5th wind turbine into bot lab. That's interesting to see. He goes 5 wind turbines.
Slow going on a very long walk though before he built his factory.
I wonder if he's doing this just to kind of like lock down this choke point here. He doesn't want units sneaking by, so I know he likes to play greedy, and even looking at this building positioning, just doesn't want to move his commander at all for now. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes like 2 or 3 construction vehicles straight away. Let's see what he does here.
Well, he needs to play for the win though, with him being 2-1 in this best of 5. He needs to win this next one or it's game over.
Yeah, being on match point has to be stressful, especially against such a strong player.
And also on top of the fact that this has been a long-term league, it's been going on for well over a month at this point, all culminating into this very final game. No pressure.
Yeah, definitely nerves can come into play. I know ZLO is a veteran, so, and I can't imagine either player is really feeling nerves at this point. I mean, maybe it'd be interesting to know if they are, but a little bit of this, the honor riding on the line here. Neither player, I'm sure, wants to have the shame of going down in defeat, losing in the finals. Just one grunt gonna sneak through. Goes down barely. That would have been really unfortunate for that to sneak through. I would have gotten a couple of mexes for its trouble, or at least pulled the commander off and wasting that build power.
Meanwhile, in terms of harass, nothing from Slow on the north side. Just that one scout keeping an eye just outside of Andy's base, which has now been spotted with a radar on the hill.
Yeah, fantastic radar positioning, and really good job using this grunt to kind of shoo away that scout for now. In classic Andy fashion, you're playing super greedy. Has made 1 scout and a 5th construction bot coming out here. Just, I mean, this is insane greed.
I think how big this map is, for the time it would take for a unit to get close to you, it's already gonna have units to defend in base by then. So, but interestingly, we are seeing pounders being built by Slow, which you don't often see.
No,
very slow.
Very slow unit, but so effective against grunts. Like, it's kind of insane how good they are against grunts. If you can kind of get the right kind of trade or engagement with them, that splash damage and knockback is just huge. And he's setting this one immediately across the map. I'm not sure if he's kind of tested this or knows something we don't about how effective these are against raiding. You don't quite see early game pounders moving across the map.
Well, I guess if all that Andy does have is grunts and that's it, then it will do very well against, you know, multiple grunts. As long as he doesn't get surrounded, then he should be fine. Slow actually moving his commander away from base towards the middle. Is it just purely to get some radars up by the looks of it?
Yeah, this is just another really good radar positioning. It's hard to attack into. Looks like kind of just camping or holding down these choke points. So maybe he's low recognizing how choked up the map is and thinks that these pounders are good enough in the early game to justify making them so quickly. Just 15 mass less than a medium tank.
We have seen that he has completely stopped building them. So just the one purely for defending the expanding engineer and then the one in the middle. We're about to see how effective they are, maybe. Nope. Even pulling the grunts back. Does not want to take that fight.
We have a small metal advantage for Andy so far, but not the biggest deal. He's got a better position. He's already farther forward on the map with his commander and making these LLTs here.
Rocket bots as well are not going to do much when there's no LLTs, but they will deal with pounders pretty well.
Yeah, they can kite back, and that was a pretty cool shot to see them take out that radar on the hill. I didn't quite realize how effective that would be.
You see ZLO massing a large amount of incisors though.
Is this grunt gonna take out that pounder? Yeah, just barely goes down. And like
Still,
you said,
though,
yeah.
1 pounder for 5 grunts is a pretty good trade.
He's gonna end up getting this construction buy. That's a big deal right there. He's gonna take out all these mexes on the south side, meanwhile pressuring in the mid. Winning on both fronts here, it seems.
Doesn't help that right now ZLO is not actually doing anything with the units he's producing. He's just hiding them in this hill.
This could be a pretty great surprise attack as ZLO steps forward with his commander and tries to take an engagement. He could sneak behind with those incisors and surprise his opponent. This game is getting really tense right now.
Does not look good as the large force approaches and ZLO's base.
He's got to go now. He's got to move in with his commander and try and get a snipe off. I mean, he's losing his main base pretty much, so he has to make this attack work, and he gets off 2 huge D-guns. Taking out all those incisors, and that's going to be GG. It looks like ZLO's commander is going to go down to this LLT fire. Well played.
Final game in a comm bomb.
That could have worked if Andy wasn't so on top of the commander D-guns right there. If perhaps ZLO had another little attack force on the other side of the map or found some way to distract him, that could have worked.
Yeah, ZLO unfortunately not really contesting any of the angles though. Just decided way before time that he was going to push Andy's commander and just let all those enemy forces push right into him. Maybe he should have played a bit more of a proper game rather than just trying to go all in on the commander.
Yeah, I definitely lean more towards playing a safe conservative expansion style and try and win in the long game. So still completely capable of winning on all fronts. And Andy's build was so greedy. I mean, he had like 1 grunt into 5 construction bots and walked his commander outside of his base, just completely relying on this radar to give him an idea of when an attack was heading his way.
Well played, both players though. Andy, the leader of the FarmMan League at the end of Season 1.
Yeah, so now that we're here, did you play in any of the games? I know you casted a lot of them. What did you think of Season 1? What would you have done differently, or what did you enjoy?
I personally didn't play. My time is a bit too limited at the moment to be taking part in these, but I thought it was very well run and there was a lot of interesting games. It's nice to see these high-tier players getting together and playing games on such a regular basis. And I hope it does continue into Season 2 so we get to see some more great games.
Yeah, I'll have to sit down, give it some thought. If y'all have any suggestions or would like to help us out, participate, be willing to entertain any kind of ideas, so be sure to drop those in the comment section or just reach out to me on Discord and we'll try and get this Season 2 off the ground for y'all if that's something you enjoyed or would like to see happen. So want to say thanks to everyone who did participate. I had a lot of fun on some of my matches, and shout out to everyone who coordinated with their opponents and made the games happen. So that takes a lot of effort, and I want to extend my appreciation to y'all. Yeah, so that's the game. Requiem, you have anything you'd like to add before we kind of wrap it up? Or
No, I'm good. Thank you for having me again. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I enjoyed the cast. Hopefully we can do one of these in the future. Maybe season 2, episode 1, we'll have another cast and give the next season a proper send-off.
Yeah, sounds great.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you in the next cast.